many of you are interested in the same subjects that I am regarding the end times and the biblical prophecies that are mentioned throughout the Bible. One of these was done by the prophet Daniel. And we know all about Daniel. He foresaw the king Nebuchadnezzar and the fact that he would mentally go insane, and he foresaw the coming empire that represented various countries joining forces together. And he also interpreted a dream, if you remember, for his King Nebuchadnezzar. And all of this was relating to the fact that God was with Daniel and he helped him interpret those things that he saw through visions. And he asked God to help him interpret those dreams, and he always did through a vision or a dream that Daniel had himself. And I have tried to do videos on my channel over the past year or so, or 2 years, relating to the subject of biblical prophecy, what the Bible really specifically says of things that are going to happen in the end times. And this video today is going to relate to Daniel 12, and it's going to be roughly the primary verse of 4, and I might skim around a little with some of the earlier verses. Has done many prophecies, and this is the end of the book for him, so that means that this is a time in his life when God no longer was working through him for specific events that were going to happen. So he told Daniel to take all his writings about the end times and lock the book up, and that when the time came that mankind would be allowed to have it and to use it as a reference to the things that would be happening in our time, which is 2,000 years later. Now, I lost track with this Bible verse some time ago, and I decided I'm going to try now to make reference to it. This is a key phrase of the entire Bible. It says in verse 4, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." That is a very unique and very direct reference to our time in 2015. No other time in human history has there been so much advancement in technology than has happened in the 21st century. There was a lot that happened during the 20th century. We did advance enough technologically to go to the moon, and we couldn't have ever have done that in the 18th century or the 19th century. But the phrase at the beginning of this verse says, "And many shall run to and fro." What that means is that people in general will have an ability to go to different places, and it'll be very, very quick. It will be very economical, but it'll be a normal everyday occurrence. And people today, of course, get in your car or you go on an airplane, you fly all over the world, and you don't think much of it. Well, at that time when Daniel was writing this book, For him to see these things, it would be just like magic, because for him, he had never seen such things before. And for the Bible to tell you that this is what would happen 2,000 years before it really did happen, you got to put credence to it. You got to put credibility to what God was saying to Daniel, that he was a prophet who gave specific end-time prophecies. Then he turns around and gets this little window into the future to see what earth will look like at the time that these prophecies he was making are supposed to happen. And if you put one and one together, you get two, and that implies to me we were being told by God, this is what's going to be happening when all this happens, and it's right now where we are in time, in history. I don't believe I could ever see in the next 20 years, first, that the earth would survive because of the amount of danger over nuclear war. The Middle East has always been at war for as long as they've existed. I don't believe that we can technologically advance any further than we have as far as the standard combustion engine. I don't believe that we could go any farther than the moon, because there's not been any type of an increase in technology to a higher level that they can say it's a breakthrough in interstellar travel, which means you could be put into suspended animation, for example, and go farther into even other galaxies, other universes. We don't have that technology. It will probably never exist. So I think there's a distinct time reference where God is saying, and man shall go to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. But he doesn't say, and man shall go into space, and man shall be capable of going to other worlds. It doesn't say that. It just says knowledge will be increased. That means man is earthbound. Means he's not going anywhere. He's going to still be here. To and fro could mean technologically we might have the scientific know-how to create cars that can travel supersonic, and they can move us from place to place, even maybe not even without using wheels. Maybe this might be some sort of a Star Trek technology that could move people by transporter. In other words, they break down the molecular structure of your body, put you in a machine, and it moves you through space to another place on Earth instantaneously. But I still say that's kind of far-fetched, because no such technology exists, even with all we've advanced technologically since the mid-90s. But what all of this relates to in the final conclusion is that these things are happening right now. And in the general, most simplest understanding of the Bible, we can have one very quick conclusion that God is saying that the return of Jesus Christ to earth is very short to come. It's very quick to come. It's very, very soon. And I don't want to outguess what God will do, but I think that for those who are raptured and are saved, and he takes them home, and the church home before the Battle of Armageddon, he has to do something that makes it necessary for him to snatch up all of his saints, dead saints, living saints. And when a scholar talks about how soon before, how soon after will the rapture happen, that the Antichrist will show up, I agree with those who say that the Antichrist probably won't show his ugly face until after the rapture, because there'll be global chaos. So many millions of people will disappear all at once. And there's no leader on this earth right now that's human who could handle that much chaos. So the Antichrist would show up and say, I can take care of you, and I can take care of all this. Just give me the source, the resource, and the power to do it, and I'll get this whole thing fixed. And he will, because the Bible says that already. And the only thing that we don't have are specific dates of when all of this is supposed to happen. I think before the end of the next term of Obama, I believe he will not leave office, and that's because he has the same mentality and philosophy as so many other global regimes, and that's reference to communism. He holds the same philosophies about the control of masses of people. Juan Valdez, he controlled his country, and he was definitely a tyrant. He was a dictator, and he only got ousted. Why? Because he died. That's the only reason he's not there anymore. Otherwise, he'd still be in power. Putin is a tyrant because he's no less another Soviet premier, another Soviet Stalin. He's restructuring the country as we speak into his own version of the socialist republics that used to exist, the Soviet Union. But he won't call it that. He'll say it's getting better, and that's the end of that subject. And then you've got, of course, the Chinese, and I think they're the only superpower that really technically exists in the world today, because they have probably 5 times as many warheads, nuclear warheads, as what America did during the Cold War. Nobody has been able or would be able to stop them from amassing that kind of an arsenal, because the United States never has had inspections in China of what they were building. And now you've got a communist dictator in America who is not only giving secrets of technology of building nuclear bombs to Iran, he's also going cuddly with Cuba. He's going cuddly with China. He's already cuddly with Putin, although probably that's behind the scenes of the cameras. You're not going to know what they're really saying to each other. And I think it proves beyond any doubt that God is sending us signs through His Word, but also, if you've noticed, there's been 4 blood moons that have taken place over a year or 2 years' time since 2013 they began. And in September, the end of September, there's going to be one final blood moon. And what we know from hearing about this, people are prophesying that the stock market is going to totally collapse by the 26th or the 28th of September 2015. And when that happens, there's going to be a massive escalation of violence and riots. And who knows what that implies? Maybe this is the catalyst that Jesus is then going to come during that moment of panic and unrest, and He's going to grab out the church, because the church represents the majority of people who do pay taxes. That's a fact. The rest of the world who are unsaved are mostly people who do not want to work, and they are now on welfare, and they still are on welfare. And I would say, if you're not watching what's going on the stock market, you're going to be very surprised by the end of September. Thank you.
Houston, you're a go. Detecting it all at 4 minutes.